Okay. So should I share the screen or will you be sharing the screen, Prabhu?
Prabhu, if you can share the screen, it will be good.
Okay, done. Okay. So today we are going to actually cover from Srimad Bhagavatam. So give me one moment while I just open the relevant shlokas. Sorry for that. So we are in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, the Cosmic Manifestation, Chapter 1, the first step in God realization. Okay. Okay. So let's do the invocation prayers and then we will start discussing a set of verses very wonderfully given in the Shastras. We will try to see what we have learned so far in this canto, connecting it back to why it's being discussed and what are the rest of the things to discuss today. Okay. Um, okay, we'll come there. I'll probably do the invocation. You can all do it at your end. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinataranam. Krishna, we can continue. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chaksharonmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, Hare Krishna, welcome everyone. Okay, so very interesting. We are in the second canto. Now, Sukadev Goswami has started speaking in the first half of this chapter. Let's take a look at what is the event that led to this, right? So, we all know the story of Parikshit Maharaj. Ideally, we all know what happened in the first canto. So first canto ends with Parikshit Maharaj's question. What does he say? What should a person hear, chant, and remember throughout his life, and especially at the time of death? Okay. So he's asking two things, right? One, how do I live my life in this world? Second one, how do I live my life from this world? Right? He's asking these two things. And that's the like what we understand from Srimad Bhagavatam. This is the most important question that we all should answer for ourselves. How do I live here so that when I leave from here, I am in the right position? Okay. So for all we know, for last Saturday's class, so the second canto begins with that in the first half. Um, very obvious throughout the scriptures, you will see that there is a lot of glorification that happens to the person who is given a question because the question is very relevant to to the question itself. Okay, so Sukadeva Goswami actually starts off firstly by glorifying the question. He says it's very relevant. These questions are very nice. This is the subject matter to be answered. And then in a few shlokas, he actually glorifies Krishna. There's a bit of glorification of the Bhakti Yoga and so on. Okay? And then he says this is the topmost subject matter for the discussion, okay, for both hearing and for discussing. Okay, so the topmost subject matter is Krishna Katha. Okay, so he also describes in the first half saying this Grahamedi life is actually, we should be very careful not to live that kind of life. So our life should be centered around Krishna. That means we should hear, chant, and remember Krishna. Then we'll automatically be called an intelligent person. Okay, and if throughout our life we hear, chant, and remember Shravanam, Kirtanam, and Smaranam of the Supreme Lord, then naturally at the end of our life we'll be able to remember Krishna. This is the essence of Srimad Bhagavatam. That is the essence of Bhakti Yoga. And all this was covered in the first 5 shlokas of this chapter. Okay, the entire Bhagavatam is also covered there. Then what happens? So rest of it, is it even required? So if you see by the time you come to the 10th shloka, you'll actually see that there is the story of Katwang Maharaj, very nicely put forward to Parikshit Maharaj, saying that, you know what, Katwang Maharaj was given that one moment, and that one moment he perfected his life. And my dear Parikshit Maharaj, you have 7 days, and that's your time to fix on the Lord and do your perfected activity. So far, Hare Krishna, there's a bit of a feedback. If you're not speaking, please go on mute. Okay. So far, you will see that there is so much of glorification or so many details that's given that's given around this Shavanam Kirtanam. The Bhagavatam has come to an end. And with Parikshit Maharaj's story, we all know Bhakti Yoga is the topmost, irrespective of whatever is your position. Even if you are, um, you know, all the way up to demigods, your direct connect with them, your life can be perfected in a moment if you are surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay. Now, the change over happens by the time we come to the 1920 shloka. Um, Prabhuji, if you can give me the host permission or co-host permission, I can share my screen. Okay. Try to share the screen and they give me permission. Okay, I got the permission. Okay, please let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So obviously we did Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Let's continue going further down and see, because we're going to do a set of shlokas today. We'll try to cover the topics by themselves and we'll try to discuss on what's more relevant, more suited for. Like I said, by the time it comes to the second half of this chapter, where are we? By the time we come to 19th shloka, now here he's saying, thereafter you should meditate upon the limbs of Vishnu one after another without being deviated from the conception of complete body. Thus the mind becomes free from all sense objects. There should be no other thing to be thought about because the Supreme Personality of God, Vishnu, is the ultimate truth. The mind becomes completely reconciled in him. Okay, now suddenly from telling that you should do Shravanam, Kirtanam, and Smaranam, here the Smaranam is a little more detailed given in that, you know what, you have to start meditating on the limbs of the Supreme Lord. Okay, now a very interesting question. So obviously there is few details about the mind as well that is being discussed here. Okay, it's very interesting that after talking about the superiority of bhakti and Patkatma Maharaj and everything, he's actually jumping down to something like meditation or something like the Ashtanga yoga system. Okay, so again on this yoga itself, let's spend a moment. So let me just stop my screen. Let's try to understand this yoga part, because many people think whatever they do today, whatever gymnastics they do today is a yoga system. So in the scriptures, it's very clearly mentioned, saying that a yoga system is said to be complete only if we get the ultimate benefit of being with the Lord. Anything less is actually a failure. Okay, so to understand this, Srila Prabhupada actually mentions in the purport saying that only the foolish will take up to yoga or anything less than to achieve the Supreme Lord. Okay, we are clear. Now let's talk about this Ashtanga yoga process, and then we'll come to the shloka itself, the set of shlokas. Why am I saying this? Is because the rest of it, from the understanding perspective, you will see it's going to be a little technical by nature. The first half of the chapter is more on self-implementation. The second half of the chapter is technical about the Lord. So when we hear something which describes the universal form of the Lord, the Virata Rupa of the Lord, how do I connect back to what is my situation today is something that we will try to understand by the end of this class. Okay, so let's start with a very simple thing. What is Ashtanga Yoga? What or who should be actually following it? Okay, so Ashtanga, right? The eightfold yoga system, we all know. The main purpose of it is there is something that will do to the control our mind so that we can absorb our mind in the Supreme Lord. Okay, let's take it by parts, right? So if you see Bhagavad Gita itself, so Krishna has given all the various yoga systems there, correct? So Karma Yoga was discussed, Karma Kanda was discussed, other details on Karma Yoga was discussed. Then Dhyana Yoga comes in, where he talks a bit about the Ashtanga Yoga process. And then you will see that there is Jnana Yoga, there's also Bhakti Yoga, right? So in this Ashtanga Yoga process, we have something called Yama, the restrictions, the Niyama, the duties that we perform, Asana, the posture in which we sit ideally, Pranayama, the breathing exercises, and Pratyahara, withdrawing our senses from the material or the sense gratificatory stuff which are causing us trouble. Okay, these are 5 initial steps that is called preparation for doing the yoga. Then we have something called dharana. Dharana means what? Dharana means concentration or fixing up our mind. Okay, then we have dhyana, which is meditation, and then we have samadhi, which is absorption. Okay, so these are the 8 steps. The first 5 is to prepare. The next 3 is the process itself. Again, there you will see something called dharana. We'll discuss a little bit about dharana. I'll tell you why in a few minutes. Now, when you see Krishna is explaining all this, Arjuna comes up. If you remember, go back to Bhagavad Gita, you would remember, oh, Krishna, you're asking me to control mind. Chanchalami manam Krishna. Okay. The mind is restless, it's turbulent, it's obstinate, it's very strong. Oh, Krishna, you know what? It's more difficult than controlling the mind. Krishna doesn't tell Arjuna, you can do it. What is he says? Asamshayam Mahabaho. Asamshayam, without any doubt. Mano Dunnigram Chalam. Right? Abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagyena cha grahyate. What does he say? O mighty armed Arjuna, O mighty armed son of Kunti, it is undoubtedly very difficult to curb the restless mind, but it is possible by suitable practice and by detachment. 2 very important points, right? Abhyasa and Vairagya. You cannot control your mind from sense gratificatory activities just like that overnight. Okay, the typical example that we keep hearing, right? So when I try to control something, when I try to control doing an activity that I've been doing for so many times, then suddenly, if I want to completely stop doing that activity, it's not going to be logically possible. Like a person, he goes to he takes up Krishna consciousness. He goes to his guru, says, Sarji, Swamiji, I have stopped drinking coffee. He says, very nice. That's very important that you stop drinking coffee for progressing in Krishna consciousness. The guru says, you're new to this whole concept of Krishna consciousness. So how many coffees you used to drink? Yeah, I used to drink about 15 coffees every day. Okay, and when did you stop? I've stopped from yesterday. Okay, how many did you do yesterday? None. And today? Since morning, I fully control. The Guru says, do something. From today, you drink 14 cups of coffee. We're doing 15 last week. And today, you do 14 cups. This student is surprised. People around him are surprised. ये क्या बोल दिया? Guru says, because you have stopped all of a sudden, tomorrow when you restarted, because you cannot control, you will do 20 cups of coffee. You will do 10 cigarettes extra, right? So when you stop something, do it gradually. This word gradually, I don't use it in loose term. If it's possible for you to actually do it at one shot, then please do it. But it's like compressing that spring. You tighten it, tighten it, tighten it. It's very nice as long as you are able to hold it. The moment you let go, this big spring will actually jump bigger, right? Your senses will suddenly crave for everything that you have stopped. So abhyasa, practice, and it will gradually, you will be able to give up an activity that you are supposed to give up, but you will be very confident in giving up that activity. Tomorrow you will not have a taste for doing that activity. Like many of us here would have lost the taste for whatever World Cup football or cricket matches. I mean, some of us would have been very crazy about sports or movies or politics or whatever other material things that we had carried. We did all have our own baggage that we carried, but over a period of time, it doesn't interest you anymore because it's over a period of time. You have acquired something which is of a higher taste. In simple, you don't have the attraction to the roadside pani puri anymore because you do get it at a higher quality at a right place. The moment you understand that whatever you were getting is of a lower taste, lower quality, automatically the higher stuff helps you take care. Okay, so the vairagya or the detachment from all the unnecessary things will automatically happen. But you should, what do you call it? You should actually know that you need to get detached from that activity. Okay. Now let's jump on to the shloka that we are supposed to cover today. Um, Now I'm hoping the background is set as to why we have come to this Ashtanga yoga process, what is being discussed here. Okay. Now the focus for the rest of today's discussion, probably for another 30 to 40 minutes, will be on this particular thing called dharana. Okay. The first 5 steps are done. The next two are coming. So Parikshit Maharaj is going to ask a very important question. Okay. Let's actually share. Okay, let me go back and share my screen. So let's go to this shloka number 21, where we ideally should have stopped last week. It says, O king, by the system of remembrance and being fixed in the habit of seeing the good, all good personal conception of the Lord, one can very soon attain devotional service to the Lord under his direct shelter. Now he's told that you get fixed in the Supreme Lord, and he says by actually doing service or devotional service to him, you're you are in direct shelter of the Lord. That means you have achieved what is needed for you. Once he actually says this, Parikshit Maharaj has a very important question here. Rajovacha yata sandharayate brahman dharana yatra sammatha yadrishi va haredasu purushasya manomalam. What is he saying? The fortunate king Parikshit, inquiring further, said, O Brahmana, please describe in full detail how and where the mind has to be applied, and how the conception can be fixed so that the dirty things in the person's mind can be removed. Um, Now, there is a very nice detail here that I would probably like to mention so that we all can understand. See, there are two things. One, two devotional surveys get delivered. By the very sound of it, it looks easy, it looks practical. It's to get delivered. But if I'm still carrying a lot of dirty things in my mind, I need to, get out of those. And for such a thing, what do I need to do? So there are three parts of this question. Okay. how is dharana accomplished, right? The second part is what is a bona fide dharana shreya. We'll actually see that in the second half of this chapter, which we'll be reading in some time, and we'll also see that in the second chapter of this canto. Basically, where do I take shelter of being my mind fixed? Okay, what is the conception that I need to have my mind fixed on? Okay. The third part is how to quickly remove contamination of the mind. Okay, now so many of you might already be knowing that there are mixture of these yoga systems. So we already spoke about, karma yoga, then jnana yoga and bhakti yoga and all those yoga systems, right? Now there is also a mixture. Okay, we can do bhakti mishra karma or karma mishra bhakti and so on. Here it is basically the dhyana yoga, but it's the bhakti mishra yoga that Parishit Maharaj is asking. And he's so very nicely Prabhupada actually mentions in the next verse. He states that Parikshit Maharaj is not asking this for us, I mean for himself. He's curious not because he wants to practice this kind of a mixture bhakti. He's very clear he wants to do bhakti, right? He's very, very clear in his conception. But he's asking for us as well. Okay, so let's actually see what Sukadeva Goswami replies back. We'll read the shloka. Rest of it we can go with translation and purport, important points from the purport. Okay. Sri Sukha Uvacha, Jitasnu Jitasvaso, Jitasango Jitendriyaha, Stule Bhagavato Rupe, Manaha, Sandharayeti, Sandarayet, Diya. Okay. Sukadeva Goswami said, one should control the sitting posture, regulate the breathing process by the yogic pranayama, and thus control the mind and senses, and with intelligence apply the mind to the gross potencies of the Lord, called the Virata Rupa. Very interesting. Okay. So all of us know that when a person does dhyana, meditation, he meditates on what? He meditates on the Paramatma feature of the Lord. Correct? They try to meditate on the Paramatma feature. Now we are talking not talking about dhyana, but we are talking about a step prior to dhyana, which is your dharana. That means you'll fix your mind. What do you fix your mind? Actually, you can fix your mind either on this on the Lord, which is your Virata Rupa, or on the Paramatma feature of the Lord. Okay. When you go further, your ideas will be pretty much clear. So if you just look at what is the next chapter, you will see that the next chapter is called the Lord in the Heart. So the details will further go on, and you will actually talk about the Paramatma himself. Okay, but here it's talking an intelligent person, right? Diya. Diya is by intelligence. Now, first thing we need to understand is Krishna consciousness is not devoid of intelligence, common sense. Many people take it for granted. Many people bring in higher concepts, then that what, it's Lord will take care. Oh no, why did the Lord do? Even I am chanting. You know, you should understand your situation very, very clearly. You should use your intelligence to actually understand. Okay, wherever we have an opportunity to get details on, we should always try to understand it with our intelligence. You should apply your intelligence. Okay, I am using this word intelligence very, very often is because many times we take it very lightly. We believe that everything is supported and everything will automatically happen. When you're doing it like that, that means you're emotionally connected to the process. And when you're emotionally connected to a process, it's very easy for you to be emotionally disconnected from the process. When there is a major event that happens which is not favorable to your lifestyle, then you will actually drop off from that situation. Okay, so there have been very, very senior devotees, there have been very, very serious devotees who actually have had a lifestyle impacting issue, and they would have suddenly left KC. Okay, that's because they were emotionally connected to Krishna consciousness. They emotionally thought, what, Jagannath will take care of everything. Emotionally, they do not have the faith that Jagannath will take care in his own style. If I have lost a loved one, if I have lost something in terms of monetary, finances and all that, They think that, oh, you know what, I've served Jagannath for so long. Jagannath is not taken care of me. No, Jagannath is taken care of you in the way he wants to take care of you. That is what is an intelligent person understands. So please apply your intelligence. Okay, let's move on. So here, if you see, the materially absorbed mind of the conditioned soul does not allow him to transcend the limit of bodily conception. Now, the question here, if you just go back, sorry, if you just go back to the previous question, you will see when a person's mind has got all dirty things, it's very difficult for him to actually control and surrender to the Lord. Such a person, what needs to be done? Okay, for such a person who's materially engrossed. Okay, for such a person, you know, this process of absorbing himself on the Virata Rupa makes sense. Okay, now let's go back a little bit to the Bhagavad Gita concept, right? So let's touch upon the 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. What's the 10th chapter called? It's called the Vibhuti Yoga. And the 11th chapter is again your Virata, right? The universal form. Now, between these two, if you see in the 10th chapter, what is Krishna telling you? Krishna is telling Arjuna, rather. Krishna is telling Arjuna, look, anything that you see, anything that's got the best of abilities, anything that's got the grandeur, or anything that is fantastic, please understand it's a opulence or a vibhuti of me. And whenever you see something at the best, remember that is me. So he's actually very nicely telling us that whenever you see anything, connect it back to me. And that's where Arjuna says, oh, Krishna, all what you're saying is very nice. This whole opulence as being you, and so the strength of the man, the biggest of the bird, the strongest of the animal, you know, the deepest of the ocean, the tallest of the mountains. I understand all this is you. I mean, I heard all this is you. How do I understand? Can you show me that form of yours? Correct? Very interesting, right? Now let's take a moment back. Now we are going to get into the concept of Virat Rupa itself in the next shlokas. Now here, let's try to connect. How many of you know Krishna? How many times did he show his Virata Rupa? Can someone unmute and tell me what we already know?
To the best of knowledge, I think I can see once to Arjuna and once to probably Yashoda Mata.
Ah, very nice. Thank you. That's Nirmala Mataji. Okay. Anyone else knows if there is another event?
He showed it to Duryodhan.
Yes, Mataji. Thank you, Sumantra Mataji. So, firstly, the version 1.0, he showed it to Yashodamaya. Then he showed a different form to Duryodhana. And of course, the most popular one that we know is to Arjuna. And in each case, the situation of the recipient was a little different. Okay, let's touch upon this beautiful pastime where he shows his form in a different way to Mother Yashoda. All of us know where it is. We know the pastime, but the subject today is so dry that I thought we should little bit touch upon this. थोड़ा तो वृंदावन याद करना चाहिए. So this is at Brahmanda Ghat for devotees who have visited. I'm sure most of you have. So Krishna is eating some mud. Everyone goes and complain. Mother Yashoda comes and tells Krishna, "Oh, did you eat this mud?" Krishna says, "Nahi, nahi." And then Mother Yashoda says, "No, no. Everyone is saying, everyone fought with me. I won the game. So you know what? Even Balram is telling." That's when Krishna says, Dauji also fought with me. Today he lost the match. That's why he's coming and complaining. Even Dauji became against me today. Okay. Then Mother Yashoda says, "Open your mouth." And Krishna opens his mouth. And for that moment, Mother Yashoda is fully bewildered. What is she seeing? She's seeing the entire universe. She's seeing the entire uh, parts of the universe all within the mouth of Krishna. And that few moments wonderfully explained by the Acharya saying that Mother Yashoda is bewildered, confused. She is completely lost. What's happened? And within a moment, she comes back to senses. Forgot everything that she saw. She sees Krishna has a wonderful little child, puts him on the lap and feeds him milk, cleans him up. Okay, she's then started taking care of Krishna as a loving mother. Okay, this was the first time, and actually Krishna shows the entire Brahmanda or the working of the Brahmanda within his mouth to his mother. Because Krishna says nothing affects me, but then Mother Yashoda's love actually pulls Krishna from that position down to that loving that he has to be in the control or grasp of Mother Yashoda. Krishna is in never control of anyone. Krishna never is in control of anyone, right? But here we'll see, but for a pure devotee, Krishna is always submissive. That's how Mother Yashoda ties him up, right? So we all know once during the Kartik Damodar Leela, Krishna is tied up and Balramji comes and tells Mother Yashoda, Maya, what have you done? You have tied Krishna. Yeah, he was very nutcut today. Mother Yashoda, mother, but that's not how it can happen. He's the supreme personality of Godhead. Mother is like, go, go, go play. Don't come and tell me all this. No, no, you don't understand Krishna's position. This entire creation is because of this Krishna only. And Mother Yashoda is like, and how do you know? Oh, you know, I am Ananta. Everything in the universe is sitting on my head. And Mother Yashoda takes a stick and says, भाग यहाँ से सारे भगवान को मेरे घर पे आना था. So you know that love of Mother Yashoda overpowers the position of the Supreme Lord. And that's a position Krishna loves to take. That's a position that the Lord loves to take. Jumping out to the second time when Krishna actually shows his universal form. That was Shailaja Mataji, you had something? Okay. So that was when he showed it to Duryodhana. This was when Krishna goes as the Pandava Duta, correct? So Krishna goes as the messenger of the Pandavas. He goes and tells Duryodhana and Parthi that, look, it's time you actually give the kingdom or at least part of the kingdom or a few villages to the Pandavas because they're Kshatriyas. And so we all know that episode. So he actually tells. And Duryodhana very, very, very clearly rejects this whole concept. Okay. And then he's actually seated Krishna in such a way that he knows that if Krishna is there, he is going to cause a lot of trouble. Even if you read the first half of Bhagavad Gita, till the first 14 shlokas, you know, Krishna is not mentioned because everything that's mentioned is around Duryodhana speaking. Dhritarashtra, then Sanjaya, then Duryodhana. Duryodhana is talking about all the warriors on the opposite side. He's talking about warriors on his own side, but he never considers Krishna. He doesn't want Krishna to be present like most of us who do not want the presence of Krishna. We are happy with whatever Lakshmi opulence that we can get, but not Narayana. Typical mentality, which was Duryodhana's mindset. And he arranged it in such a way that Krishna is seated on a wonderful asana, wherein the asana would open and Krishna would fall down uh, into a cave where he's going to be killed. That is how he had planned. After the negotiations didn't go through, uh, the seat actually opens up and Krishna doesn't fall. It actually shows Duryodhana his huge Virata form. When he shows Duryodhana this huge form, what does Duryodhana see? Duryodhana only sees a lot of light coming. He sees only bright light. Because what is he missing? That we know the others have the Divya Chakshu to actually see the Lord as he is because he doesn't want to see the Lord that way. Okay. Now he sees that and he says, oh, you are a mystic. तुम मंत्रवादी मायावादी कुछ हो तुम. I mean, obviously, he doesn't want to accept Krishna as Bhagavan. Otherwise, the whole episode doesn't exist, right? The experiences are going to be different. So he doesn't accept Krishna, and then whatever rest happens. Uh, so Duryodhana had this chance of actually seeing Krishna, which he did not take. Okay, because what was his mindset in the first set? Mother Yashoda was in a very loving relationship with Krishna. The second one, it's Duryodhana who hated Krishna. Third episode, where he showed, obviously he shows it to Arjuna. And what is the situation there? So Arjuna is a bhakta and also a sakha. We all know that. And Arjuna is now inquisitive for himself and for us He wants to see Krishna's form. Now that you have told me all the vibhutis in the 10th chapter, 11th chapter, can you show me this form? And then actually Krishna shows him this huge Virata form. Before that, what it says? I'll give you the Divya Chakshu to actually see this form. And Sanjay says, thanks to Vyasadeva who blessed me with Divya Chakshu, I am also able to see this way. And it's all happening on the battlefield. And when it is happening on the battlefield, all these are all connected, right? It's not going to be that everything is disconnected, right? So everyone is also able to see something is happening. Not everyone is able to see obviously the form of the Lord. We'll discuss a little more on the form of the Lord. But let's continue with the shlokas here. Okay. Okay. This is the next shloka, right? So shloka 24, 25. We'll cover these two. This gigantic manifestation of the phenomenal material world as a whole is the personal body of the absolute truth, wherein the universal resultant past, present, and future of material time is experience. You remember how Arjuna actually sees all the warriors entering from one side, everyone coming out from the other side, so everything is being killed, right? So that's what happens, past, present, and future. Everything is actually shown here. And we'll cover the next sloka as well. It says the gigantic universal form of the personality of Godhead within the body of the universal shell, which is covered by the sevenfold material elements, is the subject for the Virata conception. Okay. Now take this universe. We'll come back to the sharing of screen. Take the universe. Universe has 7 layers of covering from the gross elements to the subtler element. And this whole thing is the gigantic form of the Lord, all the 14 planetary systems. Over the 14 planetary systems going to be placed, how are we going to look at it? Is the subject matter for the next set of discussion where we'll probably spend a few minutes there. Okay. Like to touch upon one concept before we continue, right? So many a times we keep hearing that bhakti is all encompassing. अरे भक्ति करो किसी और चीज की जरूरत नहीं है. You don't need to worry about any other way of actually reading, right? So if bhakti is all encompassing, why are we even discussing things that are going to be a little different, right? So why are we discussing something like a virata form? Well, it's in the shlokas, you will actually see that it's very nicely mentioned that we are all influenced by the different modes. And because we are influenced by the different modes, for us, directly understanding that we need to surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead doesn't exist. It's not easy. So we need to go through this process of knowing different things. You don't need to surrender at various points. Like if I have to go back to the Bhagavad Gita example, Krishna is telling Arjuna about Dhyana Yoga. Krishna is telling Arjuna about Karma Yoga, about Jnana Yoga and everything. That's not the purpose. The purpose is Man bana mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskaro or Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Raja. The concept is to completely surrender to the Supreme Person in loving devotional service. So that's the concept. But all these things we need to know at any point in time. If you understand that such things exist, these concepts exist, and I have a better concept in my hand, it's very easy to follow. Otherwise, we'll still be searching. We'll try to become a jnani saying that, oh, I heard that there is some other process. Can I do this process? Can I do that process? I see that person is enjoying, or this person is completely, जिसका इतना peaceful life होगा, he is not worried about anything. Dress भी नहीं पहनता है पूरा. Is that what we want? We don't know. Is there enjoyment in that? Maybe why not try it, right? So we might get into such concepts. See, the whole thing is end of the day, we all make a lot of material plans. And as long as we are all making material plans, we are going to have this running away, being beaten up by the matter. Okay. And Krishna himself says that, right? Prakriti kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasha. Ahankar vimudatma karta hamiti manyate. Okay. Because of our ahankar, because of our ego, we think I am the doer, even though I'm influenced by the different modes. For people who are influenced by these different modes, for them, this whole concept is very important. Okay. Now, Parikshit Maharaj was in was already directly connected to Krishna. He knew Krishna, right? His name Parikshit happened because he knew Krishna, or because he was doing Pariksha to find where is Krishna. So there was a personal connect with Krishna. Okay. And he's asking this question on Virata. Now, when the universal form is shown in the Bhagavad Gita, you will see what Krishna told Arjuna. Nimitta matra bhava savyasashay. Nimitta matra, just be an instrument. Similarly, we are all, Krishna tells, avajananti ma muda manusham tanumashram. Whenever I come in this Manusha Rupa, when I have a form, mudas, these foolish people, do not understand me. For such foolish people, Parikshit Maharaj is asking this question of how do I take care of them, even though I am perfectly connected. So he acts as an instrument of the Lord to help us get this knowledge. Okay, so please understand, it's not that Parikshit Maharaj. So many times we get confused. Why is Parikshit asking all this? He was in bhakti, he was pure bhakti. That's why he left everything within a moment and came out. And why is he asking all this? And now the explanation of Dharana Ashraya will happen because he wants us to be connected to Krishna somehow or other. Even if we are hit by the material modes of nature, we don't accept the uh, personal form of the Lord, whatever is our position, we are somehow or other supposed to get connected here. Okay. Now, rest of it is a flow through. Let me just read through the other shlokas and we can discuss a few more items that are connected to this. Let me go back sharing the screen. Okay. Now you see that the whole Putin planetary systems, this entire universe is the form of the Lord. Okay. Persons who have realized it have studied that planets known as Patala constitute the bottoms of the feet of the universal form. The heels and toes are the Rasatala planets, the ankles are the Mahatala planets, and the shanks constitute the Talatala planets. We know this, right? So 14 planetary systems, all of us know. So we'll just move on quickly. So Patala, Rasatala, Mahatala, and the Talatala planets, right from starting from the bottom. These are all the lotus feet of the Lord. Again, a small thing here, if you understand, there'll be multiple comparisons that are given to the universal form of the Lord. Somewhere you will hear that the lotus feet of the Lord are the Shudras, the bellies, the Vaishyas, the arms are the Kshatriyas, and so on. So there's one way of looking at it. The different planets are situated. There is another way of looking at it. Okay. So I'm not getting into the details of the 14 planetary systems. I'm hoping all of us know, but it's there in the purport of Srila Prabhupada. Again, we are doing a summary study here. My suggestion or my request is please go back, read through the purports, because we can never do justice to Srila Prabhupada's purport by just speaking like this in a class, especially of 20 shlokas. So please go back and take some time and read the purport. There are a lot of wonderful points that are there that Srila Prabhupada has given. Okay, we'll continue. The knees of the universal form are the planetary system known as the Sutala, and the two thighs are the Vittala and Atala planetary system. The hips are the Mahitala, and the outer space is the depression of his navel. Okay, how much or we can imagine, we can try to imagine this. Okay, I'm using the word imagine here. For now, imagine it. Then we'll come back and discuss a little bit more as we conclude the class. Okay, so we all know the Sutala planet, who stays there, and so on. So we'll move on. The chest of the original personality of the gigantic form is the luminary planetary system. His neck is the Mahar planets. His mouth is the Janas planet. His forehead is the Tapas planetary system. The topmost planetary system, known as Satyaloka, is the head of he who has 1000 heads. Okay, we have moved all the way to the Brahmaloka, each planetary system constituting to the different parts of his body. Continuing, his arms are the demigods headed by Indra. The 10 directional sides are his ears, and the physical sound is his sense of hearing. His nostrils are the two Ashwini Kumaras, and the material fragrance is his sense of smell. His mouth is the blazing fire. Now, the, all the demigods are all covered in this universal form. Correct? Now, a lot more details of this you will see in the second canto. and a little bit of this you will also see in the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay, so for now we'll continue here. The sphere of outer space constitutes his eyelids, and the eyeball is the sun or the power of seeing. His eyelids are both the day and night, and the movements of his eyebrows. And in the movement of his eyebrows, Brahma and similar supreme personalities reside. His palate is the director of water, Varuna, and the juice or essence of everything is his tongue. Okay, we know most of this. So we have already seen whatever we remember from Bhagavad Gita. The sun and the moon are his eyes. Rivers are his veins, and so on. It's the same perspective of God. The trees are his the hairs on his body, and so on. So it's a continuation or a little more detailed version of the same thing. They say that the Vedic hymns are the cerebral passage of the Lord, and his jaws of teeth are Yama, god of death, who punishes the sinners. The art of affection is his set of teeth, and the most alluring illusory material energy is his smile. This great ocean of material creation is but the casting of his glance over us. The great ocean of material creation. Okay, so we remember when the Lord sees actually passes on the entire creation. The entire creation happens because of his seeing, the glance. Okay, modesty is the upper portion of his lips. Hankering is his chin. Religion is the breast of the Lord, and irreligion is his back. Brahmaji, who generates all living beings in the material world, is his genitals, and the Mitra Varunas are his two testicles. The ocean is his waist, and the hills and mountains are the stacks of his bones. Okay, we'll continue. We'll spend a few minutes to understand some of these. We probably will not do justice of trying to understand everything. I'll tell you why. O king, the rivers are the veins of the gigantic body. The trees are the hairs of his body, and the omnipotent air is his breath. The passing ages are his movements, and his activities are the reactions of the three modes of material nature. Many times you have heard, okay, the Lord's Yoga Nidra actually causes all the activities that are happening and so on. So some of these concepts we've already discussed. The trees are his hair, the rivers are his veins, right? So we know these things, and some of these things are also coming from Brahma Samhita. Even Lord Brahma actually accepts these things. Oh, best among the gurus, the clouds which carry water are the hairs on his head. The terminations of days or the nights are his stress, and the supreme cause of material creation is his intelligence. His mind is the moon and the reservoir of all changes. Here, the mind is mentioned as moon. Earlier, we saw that moon is actually one of the eyes of the Lord, like the sun. Okay, very nice to know. Are there contradictions? We will see that. The principle of matter or Mahatattva is the consciousness of the omnipotent Lord, as asserted by the experts, and Rudradeva is his ego. The horse, mule, camel, and elephants are his nails, and the wild animals and all the quadrupeds are situations in the belt zone of the Lord. Okay, varieties of birds are indications of his masterful artistic sense. Manu, the father of mankind, is the emblem of his standard intelligence, and humanity is his residence. The celestial species of human being, like the Gandharvas, Vidyadharas, Charanas, and angels, all represent his musical rhythm, and the demoniac soldiers are the representation of his wonderful powers. Okay, whatever we see, whatever we hear of, you can always connect them back to the Supreme Lord. Like we said in the Vibhuti Yoga, all the grandest of things, the greatest of things, the most opulent of things represent the Supreme Lord. Here, they are actually represent the Virata group of the Lord. We'll finish one more, I think, and then we will see. The Virata Purusha's face is the Brahmanas, the arms are the Kshatriyas, the thighs are the Vaishyas, and the Shudras are under the protection of his feet. All the worshipable demigods are also overtaken by him, and it is the duty of everyone to perform sacrifices with peaceable goods to appease the Lord. Okay. Last two shlokas we will touch upon in a bit. We will go back. We will stop here till shloka 37. We have finished 38 and 39. We will take it in a bit, right? So, like I said in the very beginning, whatever we see here they are very much, technical by nature. If you have to understand this Virata Rupa. And what is the whole topic here? Whole topic is, let me fix my mind on the Virata conception of the Lord. Let me do dharana. Yes. Okay. Now, we'll not go into each of them. It's very difficult for us to remember everything that is being mentioned here, right? We quickly read through the translation, but based on whatever we understand, right? So now this whole universe, give it a form. The lotus feet are the lower planetary systems. They are also the shelter of um, the Shudras. If you come to the middle planetary systems, they form the middle part of the body of the Lord. The Vaishyas as well come there. The higher planetary systems are the top half of the Lord, from the chest all the way to the head of the Lord, the arms being the Kshatriyas and the head being the Brahmanas. Okay, the hairs of the body are something, the eyes of the body are something, the lips, the chin, the ears, the sound that comes out. Music is mentioned as who represent the music. The Lord's Virat Rupa's ego is mentioned as Rudradeva. Everything is covered here. So is this something that we can easily understand? Is this something that we will take it with us? Okay. Now, um, before I touch upon the last concluding point, let me read the last two shlokas as well, and we'll also do what's a concluding point and what's a takeaway for today's session, right? So I have just explained to you the gross material gigantic conception of the personality of Godhead. One who seriously desires liberation concentrates his mind on this form of the Lord, because there's nothing more than this in the material world. Okay. And one should concentrate his mind upon the supreme personality of Godhead, who alone distributes himself in so many manifestations, just as ordinary persons create thousands of manifestations in dreams. One must concentrate the mind on him, the only all blissful absolute truth. Otherwise, one will be misled and will cause his own degradation. Okay. If you're not concentrated on the Lord, we will actually degrade. This is the end of this chapter. There are a few things that we actually will take away from this chapter, right? Now let's understand a very fundamental point, that I think I have a question here. Anyone likes to answer? Anyone can give some details. It'll be very nice. Now this Virata concept of the Lord, you have seen whatever explanation, because we just read together. I have a question that says, is this Virata form material? Is this Virata form transcendental, or is this Virata form imaginary? If we can get an answer to this, then we have understood this today. Okay, please unmute yourself. You can answer based on whatever is your.
It is imaginary.
It is imaginary, Prabhuji.
It's
Okay.
material. It's material, Prabhuji.
Okay, Mantra Mata says material. Is it Amrita Mataji who said imaginary, or someone else also
Yes,
said?
I said imaginary, Prabhuji.
Okay, very nice. Anyone else? Anyone who doesn't accept it's imaginary? Okay, go ahead. Tejaswini Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I just joined. Sorry.
Oh, is it? Okay, no problem. Yes, anyone wants to agree, disagree to this? I have three options. It can be, if you have a fourth option, feel free to tell. The Virata form of the Lord is material, transcendental, or imaginary. Okay, I'll take it as we have got two answers. One says it's material, one it says imaginary. Very interesting. Now, some of the answer will keep coming to us. If I just told you the answer so easily, it wouldn't be justified, right? So we'll refer back to a few shlokas from Bhagavad Gita and few in the Bhagavatam itself earlier that we have read. A lot more details will come in the later cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam. So let's go back to Bhagavad Gita, fundamental reference point, right? So if you go to 11.5 and 11.45, there are two purports by Srila Prabhupada, okay, wherein he tells something very clearly. One, the Virata Rupa does not have a permanent position in the spiritual sky. Okay, when you look at all the avatars of the Lord, all the incarnations, you will see that, okay, when you talk about Vamandev, you talk about Narsimhadev, whatever it is, the presence of the Supreme Lord is there in the spiritual sky, that means in the Vaikuntha Lokas, and that form of the Lord gets down, he takes an avatar, he comes here and performs a Leela and goes back. Very, very clearly, this Virata form of the Lord is not spiritual, by that understanding that it does not have a presence in the spiritual sky. That part we are very clear. To go back to these purports, you will see that it says this form of the Lord is temporary and is subject to time. Okay, the form is temporary and is subject to time. Whatever is subject to time, our understanding is it's matter, it's material by nature. So this form of the Lord is material in that sense that form of the Lord is temporary, not subject to time. You can see past, present, and future, but with time, the form will exist and it will also not exist. That means there is something that will happen to the form of the Lord. Okay, and thirdly, if you go back to the third chapter in the first canto, shloka number 30, 1.3.30, you will see very, very clearly in the shloka itself and in the purport it's mentioned Virata Rupa is imaginary and it's for the purpose of understanding everything from the position of our view. Now, this is very interesting because somewhere it says it's material and temporary. Somewhere it says Virat Rupa is actually transcendental, but it is temporary. So its presence is only in the material world. And somewhere it says it's an imaginary way to actually understand the whole material creation. Okay. So here I would like to touch upon this very important thing for us to understand. That is, when we look at the Virata form of the Lord, we need to understand, like we have, in fact, Prabhupada in one of the purport also mentions it. I didn't get the right shloka reference, but I have definitely heard it in the classes. So he actually mentions how, like we have the Archa Vigraha, the Vigrahas that we worship, the deities, they are material by mold. They are temporary as long as when we invite the Lord comes in, and when the Lord doesn't want to stay in, when we do the Prana Pratishtha, the Lord comes in. When the Lord doesn't want to stay in, he actually leaves it. So that becomes material. There's no transcendental reference. That means the Archa Vigraha is not going to come to you to the spiritual sky. And the presence is through material, and the whole Virat Rupa is imaginary. So when we say imaginary, it's a very interesting way to put it, right? So what did Arjuna see? Did he imagine that he was seeing the Virat Rupa? No, its existence is there as matter, but its existence is not permanent. So when you read about it, that's why I said a few minutes back when we were reading, imagine what is being discussed here. The word imagine was used for that because the conception of Virata Rupa is imaginary in that sense. It's not going to be easy for us to understand that Virata Rupa has a permanent presence. Okay. Now I know I've confused you a little bit. Please read through Prabhupada's part, but I've given a references for a few shlokas. If you go back to Bhagavad Gita 11.5, 11.45, Canto 1, Chapter 3, 30, Shloka number 30, and a few more, you will see there is a lot more details on Virat Rupa, and it will also continue. The Virat Rupa's details will also continue in this canto itself, in second canto itself, and some other places. Okay, now we are clear on where it is not present. We are also kind of clear as to what does it encompass. So everything falls into the Virata concept of the Lord. And when he wants to display this concept, he will showcase it to you, like what Arjuna saw. Okay, so that's what we had for today. Let me pause here. Anyone has any questions, any comments, please let me know. So there are people still saying transcendental and imaginary. I'm hoping I've cleared that. And then Krishna takes an avatara and takes the Virat Rupa. I didn't understand Kalyani Mataji. Lord Krishna takes an avatar and takes the Virata Rupa. Yeah, Virata Rupa actually is represented by the Lord. He just shows his Virata Rupa. He doesn't take an avatar as a Virata person. Okay, I'm hoping that's clear. Okay, now let me stop here. We have a few minutes. If anyone has any questions, comments, anything else that you want to discuss. Okay. From here, we will jump on. Now that we'll keep the Virata aside. So the question of Parikshit Maharaj saying dharana is done. Now, if you have to do meditation, dhyana, then you would meditate on the Paramatma feature of the Lord. And that's where we'll jump on to the next chapter, wherein we will talk about the Lord in the heart. Lot of wonderful details on Paramatma. Your questions on Paramatma will all be here when you actually jump there. Okay. Any last comments? Otherwise, we'll wrap up today's session. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for joining in for today's session. Last day of the calendar year by the English calendar. Please do join us for the festivities that are there today, tomorrow, the day after tomorrow. So we'll also hope to see most of you there in the temple. Okay, thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Prabhuji.
Anurad Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranams. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you,
Hare
everyone.
Krishna, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Dandavat Pranam. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Very nice class.
Thank you. Thank you, Amanath Prabhu. Nice to see you here.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Thank you.
Krishna. Okay, Hare Krishna. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Very nice class. Dandavat Pranam. Sri Hari Prabhu, do you have any announcement? Okay. Prabhu, with your permission, can we end the session here?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Thanks for calling.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, devotees, for joining. Please join tomorrow again. Hare Krishna.